Thank you for trying TechSmith's Camtasia Relay.
Okay, welcome to this tutorial on establishing the look of movement. I'm going to show you 3 quick strategies to achieve a movement look. You can do a number of things, but these are some popular ones that you can do in Illustrator. Notice I'm just in a standard Word doc. I have a Karate Kid, a runner, and some stars. And you can see I've put those on individual layers. You need to start learning to do that and reminding yourself to do that. Using the layers as your drawings become more complex will be easier for you to navigate and easier for your teacher to as well if you need help. So I'm going to start with just this Karate Kid here. I'm going to do a quick zoom in, and there's my guy. And what I'm going to do is just use some motion lines here. And to do motion lines, some key things to remember is you want to do motion lines from the extremities so it looks like those extremities are moving. And what I'm going to use, I'll use the paintbrush tool. You could use the pencil tool or even the pen tool. I'm going to do the paintbrush tool. And the reason why I really like Illustrator is because I don't really have the steadiest hand using the mouse. So I like to double click on the paintbrush and make sure my fidelity is cranked up fairly high. This one is because I've already played with it before, but I think if you are like me and want to have a smooth line, make sure it's pretty high. Remember, low fidelity gives you a lot of anchor points for complete control, and high fidelity lowers those anchor points and kind of gives you more smooth lines. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going to click OK. I right now have a no fill. I have a black line with a paintbrush set to the smallish brush, which is a 2-point oval. I'm also going to decrease that even smaller to a 0.5 because I really want a small line here. And what I'm going to do first for this guy to make him look like he's jumping up and kicking, I'm going to do a simple line off his heel. I'm just going to come down here and do a simple line there. And then I also want to do one from his knee here, so I'm just going to kind of go down like that. And just adding those 2 lines right there, increase the look of a movement just with those. Looks like he's jumping at least. And now to make sure the foot looks like it's moving, you can do extremities from the actual appendage too. So the toes and the heel, we can apply simple strokes there as well. And if I just go like this and like this, I'll back up a little bit and maybe one more on the heel. Let's use the pen tool. It's always fun. There you go. There you go. Now, once I make a pen tool stroke and I don't want to connect it to my next stroke, to reset your pen tool, hold the control key down and just click anywhere in your artboard, and that will kind of release you from that stroke. And let's throw one down on this toe as well. We'll do the pen tool again. Let's see. Let's go right here. Oop, see, there you go. Control Z. Control, start a new one, boom, easy. So if you back up a little bit, now that guy looks much more in motion. He's jumped, his foot's wiggling or coming at me a little bit, and it looks more realistic. Okay, scooting down here to our runner. A couple techniques you can use, kind of play around with on your own. I just chose a runner because we're going to show motion. Obviously, this person, just as is, if I don't do anything right now, already is a technique to show motion because that person is in a kind of in a structure that is that kind of results from movement. So they kind of are moving anyways. But to do a quick little thing on the runner, I'm going to lock up my Karate Kid layer, open up my runner layer so I have complete control here. And a lot of you know, hopefully you know by now, that you can use the Alt key to do a quick copy and paste. What I'm going to do here is just pull out 3 or 4 of them, and I'm going to be using the transparency function. So as I click on my runner, I hold the Alt key down, I drag one to the left, I let go, I'm going to lower the opacity down, the transparency, excuse me, to let's say 60. I'm going to do the same thing again, hold the Alt key, drag to the left, and maybe this one will be maybe 40-ish. Same thing again, maybe 20-ish. And then one more, we'll drop this one way down to like 6. Now, if you look on our layers and I open up Runner, you can see that those groupings just duplicated. And Illustrator does a good job of showing you in the little preview box here the transparency you have applied. And I want the darkest runner to be on the top. So I'm just going to drag that runner to the top, next, next, next. So you can see it gives me a kind of a cool look, and I can tweak those around, I can move them, I can increase the transparency. That's one way to do it. Another way is, let me quick delete all of these. See it? So I'm back to this original image. And now all I'm going to do, instead of holding the Alt key down and moving, I'm going to hold the Alt key down and use the right arrow key. And I'm just going to hold briefly because you're going to see what happens here. I'm going to hold it for maybe a couple seconds. Ready? Here we go. And let go. And you can see it just made just a ton of copies for me as I hold the arrow key down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock my original, and I'm going to highlight all of the other ones. And with my transparency dialog box open, I'm going to drop that way down, maybe to like a 6 or 7. And then you can see as I turn that back on, since I didn't affect my original runner and all the other ones have a very low transparency, and in the fact that they were so close together, it looks like a pretty good blur. And if you're not happy with that, keep that one locked, draw a box again, and you can even go even lower. So that's kind of a cool technique. It's a cool little blur feature that you can use in Illustrator. It makes a lot of layers, it makes a lot of groups, but if you stay organized and your runner is in its own layer, obviously it is very easy to work with if you're using your layers correctly. Okay, last technique that I'm going to go over in this video is the blend feature. I have a star, unlock it. I have a star, small star here and a large star here, and I'm going to show you this is a very simple trick to use to do when you want something to look like it's falling at you or falling away from something. This final star, I'm going to give it a color. Let me grab my swatches here. I'll just go with this yellow-orange radial gradient filled type star. And then I'll go with a totally different color. Let's go, I don't know, red. Sounds good to me. Oops. Red. Okay. Now, same shape, different colors, different sizes. I'm also going to take it one step further. I'm going to do the twirl tool. It's kind of a cool tool to use. Let's crank it up a little bit. Maybe 30 point. Nah, let's not do 30 point. Well, let's do 30 and 30. Call that good. Let's go bigger. Sorry. Let's go 90. Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to twirl. I'm just going to hold the button down and twirl my edges of my star to make a funky looking little star here. So I have totally different objects. You know, I can barely tell this one was a star, and different colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black arrow, I'm going to highlight both of these. I'm going to show you what the blend tool does. First I'm going to go up to Object and Blend. I'm going to go into Blend Options, and I got a couple options here: smooth color, steps, or distance. I'll choose steps. What steps is going to do is I'm going to tell Illustrator how many steps I want it to take for it to go from here to this. And 8 sounds good to me. I'm just going to click OK. Now in order for this to work, I need to go back up to Object, Blend, and choose Make. And that's basically just make path. So watch what happens. So what I just did is it made a path from this star to this object, and it did everything it needed to do to go from this to this. You can see all it did was make a simple path. So knowing that, I can do a few things. I can click on my pen tool, go to Add Anchor Point, and I can add anchor points along this new path that was just laid down. With that done, I can grab my white arrow, select any one of those points that I just made, And now I can move this around. You can see that it gives me a little more control of the path. In addition, you can go to the Convert Anchor Point tool, hold the mouse button down and drag out, and now I have those Bezier handles to give me more of a fluid look. So it kind of looks like it's moving around. Now it doesn't look like much here. If I was doing a standard star shape, it would look a little better. I guess the squiggly lines are made with this star. Makes it look a little confusing, but overall you get the picture how it blends it together. Another cool thing is using this transparency again. If I click my white arrow, click on the first star, go to transparency and drop that way down, you're going to see blend also blends. It gets darker, 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 darker until it gets to my full shade, and that can work vice versa as well. So a lot of options to capture movement in Illustrator, using standard movement lines, using some blur techniques. There's also an effect you can use that blurs as well. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, it's in the Photoshop effects. So you could play around with blurring there as well, with the different, depending on what you have selected. That's going to apply to that object. If I unlock the Karate Kid, let me see if I can blur him quickly through the Photoshop. Yes, I can. So I could blur through. Watch what that's going to do. See, I blurred my guy there. So play around with the different effects, play around with the techniques I showed you in this video, and you should have no problem establishing a movement technique or movement effect.
Thank you for trying TechSmith's Camtasia Relay.